Hi, I'm Jen Coyle with Triple Pundit here at the Craft Brewers Conference in San Diego, and we're here with Eric Ottaway, all the way from Brooklyn Brewery. Thank you so much for joining us, Eric.
You're welcome.
So why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about why sustainability is important to you and your brewery?
Well, I think if you go back to the beginning of the craft beer movement, none of us had any money, and the way we got the word out about our products was really working with local community groups, donating beer to charitable events, to whether it was the Boy Scouts fundraiser or an art opening or the Cancer Society or whatever it was, and really being part of our community kind of at a very grassroots level. And so I think sustainability efforts were sort of a natural outgrowth of that. If you're going to support your community, if you're going to be a good corporate citizen, you want to be as sustainable as possible to the extent that your environment permits that. And for us, I think one of the big first initiatives that we did was an outgrowth of an effort to keep a big new power plant from being built in our neighborhood about 4 blocks away from us. And of course, the whole neighborhood was up in arms about it. It would have been this towering 14-story massive building with smokestacks and the whole bit. So there was a lot of effort in the neighborhood to rally and keep this thing out. And while I completely understood that, at the same time there's the whole NIMBY problem. If you've ever been in New York City in the middle of August, it's it can get pretty hot, and when it's 102 degrees on August 17th at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you want power and you want your air conditioner to be working. So that power has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
At about that same time, we were approached by a group called Community Energy that was trying to enlist New York City companies to convert to wind power. They had a wind farm in upstate New York, and they were looking to put in more actual windmills on it. And basically, every so many companies they could get wrapped up, they could afford to put in another windmill. And they came and asked us if we would consider a 5% purchase of wind-generated electricity, and we said, you know what? How about 100%? And it was kind of our statement. Actually, yes, we do need the power, but there's another way of getting that power as opposed to just having to put a power plant right next door, and that's to use wind-generated power. So we thought it was the strongest statement that we could make in support of that. And in fact, the power plant did not end up getting built, and we were the first corporation in all of New York City to go 100% wind power for our electrical needs. And then kind of other initiatives just kind of flowed from there. We have a huge tasting room like a lot of our brethren do, and we get over 3,000 people a weekend through the tasting room. And unfortunately, we're not in a position to be able to use glass and rewash it. We use compostable cups, and 5 years ago they were plastic, now they're compostable. We also don't serve food downstairs, but we have we allow people to bring in stuff from the restaurants all around the neighborhood, and we get a whole bunch of pizza boxes left behind all the time. And originally they were just thrown in the garbage. Now guess what? They're all stacked up and wrapped, and they go get recycled. And so we also just did a big new expansion on the brewery, and we pulled in a whole lot of additional energy-saving devices along with that, spent extra money on it, used high-tech glass and foam insulation on all of our pipes, and we spent probably $300,000 or $400,000 extra on a lot of these items, but saves us a lot of energy. It's better for the environment, and it kind of makes sense.
So it sounds like even though it was a big investment, you feel like there's going to be a business payback for that extra.
Yeah, the wind power, it does cost us more. It costs us about 15% more on on the electrical portion of our bill. So it's certainly not free, and we never went out of our way to really advertise that we were like all of a sudden 100% wind powered. We just sort of put it on our coasters and left it at that. And we were amazed at the feedback we get from customers still today, even though we did it first 8 years ago, of customers coming up and say, "Oh my God, I just found out you guys are 100% wind powered. That's awesome. I'm going to tell all my friends." And so we get an amazing amount of publicity around that, and I think people really appreciate us doing that locally. Although we still get people asking us where the windmill is, looking up on the roof, where'd you put that windmill?
Yeah.
So yeah, is there an investment to be made up front? But I think, particularly if you're careful about the kind of investments you make, they actually can have a direct financial return, but then also sort of a huge marketing and PR return, and that's almost incalculable, if you will.
Yeah.
Not to mention the general return to the environment.
So it sounds like you see using sustainability practices as an integral part of being a good citizen within your community. And if you don't have that, feeling like you can operate and that your community is supportive of what you're doing, then, well, you need to.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think, the other sort of misconception there is about sustainability efforts is that it's something that's going to cost a ton of money and that it's not good for the bottom line. And actually, I think what companies are starting to wake up to the fact is that actually it's a win-win situation. That it can be both better for the environment and better for the bottom line. And you're seeing more and more people doing that. I was just speaking with a woman who's the head of PR and communications for one of the largest beer distributors in this country. They own multiple properties around the country. They also are a huge food service delivery company. And one of her main things she does is sustainability issues. And they have a whole sort of menu of things that they've done all across the different properties. Whenever they expand a new piece of the distribution network, they take all those learnings, all those sort of learning lessons in from other sites that they have, and sort of give them, here's all the things we've done, and look at all the the returns we've been able to generate on it. And for them, it's both the right thing to do, but also a serious money saving process for them. So it makes sense.
Yeah, and it sounds like the knowledge of that is really getting out across the industry,
right,
more and more. Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank
Absolutely.
you so much for
You're
speaking with us today. It was really great to meet you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us.
So cheers.
Cheers.